Hello and welcome to this week's What Were They Thinking? Yet again we continue the saga of the coronavirus outbreak, this time after the World Health Organization says that our opportunity to prevent it becoming a massive issue exceeding our current expectations is very quickly coming to an end. This is a consequence of the increasing number of cases that have no direct link to China. This means they are becoming established and spreading within other countries. As unreliable as they are, official Chinese statistics say 22,000 people have died and 75,000 are infected. Outside of China, 1,150 have been infected and at least 8 have died. This is in 26 countries outside of China. These are significant statistics if the COVID-19 continues to spread the way it has been. As has been described previously, COVID-19 is at most risk for those who are elderly or have some sort of immunocompromising condition. This could be anything from a suppressed immune system due to organ transplants, simply being in a high-risk, high-stress occupation, or anything in between. This is why a recent study out of China has said many who currently have the disease may be carrying it but experiencing relatively mild symptoms. This means they are able to engage in their daily activities and then infect others in the course of doing so. While those researchers are also claiming that the COVID-19 is in a downward trend at present. This is at the same time the World Health Organization has said it is growing and is a rising concern. One possible upside to the absolute collapse of Wuhan and other Chinese cities is the change in carbon emissions. China is one of the world's largest carbon producers. They are responsible for massive quantities that outstrip just about every other country except India. Their emissions have decreased by at least 100 million metric tons over the past 2 weeks as a consequence of the coronavirus outbreak. Understand that when we say this is a drastic decrease, 100 million metric tons would be the equivalent of 6% of last year's carbon. That's from just 2 weeks of diminished productivity in China. There has been a secondary effect to all of this. The normally released carbon that comes from cars and other forms of transport has been reduced by 36%. This follows an extension of the Lunar New Year's holidays in an effort to keep people where they are, but it has also been a product of quarantine and similar restrictions on movement. This has obviously removed the need for transport in many cases, leading to another reduction from another source in carbon emissions. In another bit of controversy associated with the naming of the coronavirus, although it has officially been called COVID-19 by the World Health Organization, the International Committee on Taxonomy of Viruses has decided that that is not an appropriate name. Given their expertise and role, they have given it the name Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, COV2. According to the World Health Organization, giving it any name containing SARS has automatic associations as it could impact on their risk communications. The Newspeak version of "We don't think the Chinese government will be very happy with us calling it a SARS virus, so let's not," According to one of the lead people in the World Health Organization, China has confirmed that they are not happy with this name, as it automatically draws comparisons with the SARS epidemic, which affected China at a significant level and has left what could be described as social and cultural scars. If you think that simply being healthy is enough to remain relatively immune to allergies, you would be wrong. There's been a long-standing hypothesis known as the hygiene hypothesis. This postulates that exposure to muck, grime, and dirt as a child will make you more resilient as an adult to diseases. This has been repeatedly tested and found to be at least somewhat related to the development of allergies of one sort or another. The key behind this has always been exposure to dirt and grimes will automatically expose you to some sort of bacteria. Bacteria then train the immune system to recognize that which is not the self. Therefore, the body is far less likely to attack itself in an allergic reaction. This is great news if you want to avoid peanut allergies, shellfish allergies, egg allergies. This is a bacterial infection, not a viral infection. There is a distinct difference in the way the immune system responds to both. And in this case, it is the bacteria that are the things you need to be exposed to. This is further supported by evidence that those who have regular exposure to places like farms, green spaces, and the outdoors as children, where they are covered in dirt, muck, and grime, tend to be healthier and have a lower risk of allergies. Another interesting development has occurred this week, with the possibility that a relatively common cough syrup drug could be used to treat Parkinson's. The drug was discovered about 50 years ago and is used for coughs. As with many drugs in the market now, researchers are going back and trying to figure out if they have a new, different use. This one is called Ambroxol, and it's been used since the 70s. That's 50 years we've had to find an association, and find one we have. In what is the next part of a series of clinical trials, the drug has achieved 2 milestones that could mean we have some sort of treatment for Parkinson's. The study run out of the University College London was looking at a very small Phase 2 clinical trial. Phase 2 trials can have between 10 and 100 participants, depending on where they are going with the drug. In this case, 17 patients. They were given their medication over a 6-month period, but they also knew what they were taking in what is called an open-label trial. At the end of their dosing regime, participants were examined for changes in GBA1. This is considered an important risk factor. Mutations in this gene can cause all sorts of problems, and they believe one of them is Parkinson's. By inhibiting the release of something called glucocerebrosidase proteins, they were able to perform a better cleanup which prevented the buildup of the proteins called alpha-synuclein. These were thought to be the primary culprit in Parkinson's disease. Increasing the levels of this protein could in theory slow down the progression of Parkinson's disease. The study's outcomes demonstrate a successful penetration of the blood-brain barrier, which is normally very hard to do, an increase to the protein levels in the cerebrospinal fluid, which should translate to an increase in the brain. This increase was about 35%. It is safe, well tolerated by the patients, and no adverse effects were reported. That is a significant trifecta. You really couldn't do much better without having cured the disease. Then again, it is a phase 2 trial, open label, and a very small study cohort. This small group size also means the reported improvement in motor functions might either be an anomalous data point or a trend. We don't know, and we can't know until they either conduct more phase 2 trials or phase 3 trials. The final and interesting item this week is criticism coming out of the astronomical community aimed at those companies trying to develop satellites that will provide internet. The name most people would be familiar with, and the one this channel has touched on previously, being SpaceX's Starlink. The concern is that with over 50,000 satellites planned to be deployed into low Earth orbit, they are going to interfere with astronomers doing ground-based research. One example is that for every degree of sky viewed, there would be at least one satellite visible. This satellite would only be outshone by 17 stars in that same section of space. Another concern was the wavelengths used by these satellites. Ground-based radio astronomy is already having trouble trying to get a signal in and out between background radiation, what is already being broadcast by other satellites, and miscellaneous other problems. Adding yet more satellites with more wavelengths broadcasting more frequently and with more power would only further hinder their work. These and other criticisms, primarily aimed at Starlink and its only current competitor, have been made by 3 Italian astronomers who authored a paper outlining all of their concerns. This image summarizes at least part of their concern in a compelling manner, but Elon Musk has brushed it off in the past and may do so again. Thank you for watching this video. If you have found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions below.